So today was the start of March Madness. I'm assuming you guys filled out some brackets, right?
Sure did.
Yeah. I'm not allowed to with my work. But this is the first day of the tournament, and it's my yearly reminder of the day I thought I was gonna die. So when I first moved to Los Angeles, I was working for one of the networks out here, and my supervisor invites me over to watch March Madness. And back then, you had to have the package to watch all the games. You go over to somebody's house and drink beer all day and just watch basketball, which was great. And so my supervisor invites me over, and I'm kind of the new kid on the block there at the company. And it's like, all right, newbie, you got to pick up the beer, right? So we have a Ralph's out here, which is basically like your version of the Kroger. I think they own, I think they own both of it too, or whatever. And so I stop at this Ralph's. And I go into the Ralph's. There's a bank inside the Ralph's. There's a Washington Mutual. And I'm taking out, I'm going to the ATM. The ATM was on the side of the bank where the tellers were all lined up. And I'm taking out money to go and just get a bunch of beer and booze for everybody at this party. And I hear a crash. And I thought something fell from the ceiling. I honestly thought that everything happened so fast. And I turned around, and there were two guys with ski masks on and shotguns pointed at me, and there was the crash was one of the guys that jumped up on the table and had a shotgun to the teller's head. So what I did when they screamed "Get down" was probably one of the dumber things I've done in life. And there was a door I'd say about 10 feet away from me, and instead of getting down, I ran for that door, and it was like slightly open. And I think some of the tellers in the back, like once they figured out that the bank was being robbed, they rushed to close it. Luckily, it was two younger women, were very small, and I barreled them over. It was like Pete Rose in that All-Star game. And we locked ourselves in the vault. The bank robbery happened. These robbers actually, they got away. I call my buddy. His name's Mike Horn. And I'm like, Horny. That's what we call them, Horny. I said, Horny, dude, I was just in a bank robbery, man. Like, oh my God, and I'd only been out in LA for a couple months. And his first reaction was, dude, shut up. Get the beer and get over here. The game's already tipped off. There's no booze at my house. And I'm just coming off this traumatic experience. And no one at this March Madness viewing believed me until I made them turn on the news and they got to see it. So today is my yearly reminder of the day that things almost went south. But go green, go Michigan State, big win.
Welcome to the Flying Octopus Podcast, offering a new perspective on Red Wings hockey, as well as all the important news from around the NHL. And now, here are your hosts, Tony Wolak, Devin Little, and Evan Sabrin.
Hey, it's Carter Bear, and you're listening to the Flying Octopus Podcast.
Welcome to episode 75 of the Flying Octopus Podcast. I'm your host, Evan Sabrin, joined by my cohorts, Tony Wolak and Devin Little, who are still trying to figure out what I just said in the cold open. Lot to go over today on this episode. Red Wings, big win tonight, 3-1 in Montreal. And we're going to take a deep dive into that, as well as the Eastern Conference standings. And we're also going to discuss Tony's article he wrote for the Hockey Writers today, titled The Rule of Three, which dissects what happens when the Red Wings score 3 or more goals, as well as the outcome of what happens when they give up 3 or less goals. Before we get started today, I'd like to remind everyone where you can find us. Give us a follow on Twitter at Flying Octopod, and check us out on YouTube at The Flying Octopod. Smash that subscribe button. You can also listen to us on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. So, guys, today started out pretty good. When you woke up this morning, you saw that there was a possibility of cops skating in tonight's game. There was video everywhere of Dylan Larkin taking part in today's practice. He looked pretty good, which, considering that knee injury we saw just a few weeks back, It inspired some confidence in me heading down the stretch here. Red Wings, big win tonight. Needed this one big time. A lot of other teams that they're chasing and the teams that are still in front of them also playing tonight. So it was a crazy night of scoreboard watching, a lot of intensity. I mean, if you watched the entire game tonight, like you can't tell me, like Tony, was that not a playoff game tonight?
That's exactly what I was thinking when I was watching it. Just not only were the teams playing physical and it was just a low scoring, grinded out game, but the refs kind of called it like a playoff game too, where they're letting a lot more go, a lot more physicality in front of the net. Both goalies got bowled over at different points. Um, Honestly, like that was my biggest takeaway from the game is in playoff style hockey, this Red Wings team stepped up to the plate and they did so without Dylan Larkin too. So it's something that's given me a lot of confidence for these remaining 13 games and if the Red Wings reach the postseason, how they'll perform there. But for a team that hasn't been to the playoffs and for a group where there's just not a whole lot of playoff experience outside of Patrick Kane and David Perron, like this team's really stepped up. And also props to JT Compher as well. He has been outstanding for the Red Wings as of late. And if you heard me say that sentence 2 weeks ago, you would be like, "What? No, JT Compher." But yeah, no,
Unfollow.
his line with Patrick Kane and Alex DeBrincat has been on fire over the last week plus here. So big win, big 2 points, big regulation win for the Red Wings, and you really love to see it.
It's the type of win. Yeah, I think that's actually the perfect way to sum it up there, Tony. You love to see it. It's a win in a style, in a situation, ongoing situation, and it played out the way you hope to see it. Obviously, there's a lot kind of going against the Red Wings right now. Nobody in the Eastern Conference is losing a damn game right now. They don't have their top center. They don't have their captain, the same guy, obviously. Andrew Kopp is back in the lineup. I'm assuming he's not 100% healthy. He's just good enough to play. So I'm also assuming that there's a lot of guys in the lineup right now that are not at 100%. There's obviously all the pressure facing down on them with this month and what it's been done and what's happened in it in the past. Playoff drought, this, that. They give up the first goal. They're down a goal after 40 minutes. And this team's obviously had struggles scoring 5-on-5. And then, they tie it up, they take the lead, and then they ice it. It's a big win in a big way against an opponent that you needed to get a win against. It's obviously a team they're chasing in the Atlantic Division. We're obviously only a little over halfway through March here, so still plenty of hockey to play. But I know I'm feeling a lot better about the Red Wings' prospects of getting out of this month still intact, basically, than I did a week ago.
Evan, I want to put you on the spot here for a minute. For those listening and watching, before each episode, we put together this document. It's what we want to cover for, games that just happen or like the trade deadline or just other notes that we want to cover during these episodes. And, I'll go in there, put some thoughts of mine in there. Devin will add his, Evan will add his, but Evan, since he is the one who usually, goes through the intro, he'll write a little bit of script for, what he wants to say to welcome everyone to the episode. And when I went in this afternoon to just see where we're at, Evan's script said, and Detroit lost to Montreal, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, dude, why did you just jinx it?
No, that's the reverse jinx, Tony. The reverse jinx. I do it all the time at work.
Reverse jinx, whatever. Ye of little faith. I'm like, man, come on, give them some credit here. They've been playing good lately.
I know. I
defend
honestly,
yourself.
I honestly did not think you guys would catch that. Because I just added it, I think a little this morning, and yeah, I didn't think you guys would catch that one. But then I was also thinking at the same time, I'm like, God, they could call me out in the middle of the podcast and I'd look like an ass in front of everybody. And I think that's what you just did right there. Thank you, Tony. I appreciate
sure
that.
Did.
Oh, it's the right call. It's the right call to give it to me. But anyway, yeah, tonight, Gibson. I thought Gibson looked great. One of the things I loved to see tonight was just the team just going after anybody who touched Gibson tonight. I mean, we always talk about the Red Wings standing up for their players. I love seeing that tonight. I hate watching those guys crash Gibson. Every time someone crashes the net with him, it's just like, oh, please don't get hurt right now. We cannot afford to lose you. I thought he played spectacular tonight. A great win. DeBrincat's goal. Maybe like a little lucky bounce there. I thought the Habs were kind of taking it to the Red Wings, especially like the last 10 minutes of the third period. But yeah, they persevered, and it's the kind of win that we haven't been used to in the past, that we've seen the Red Wings kind of fold, and that would be the end of it. But I was really impressed with their performance tonight, and it was a big win because we look at the standings now. Red Wings currently are still in the second wild card spot, 84 points. The three games that really, really mattered tonight: Jets, Bruins. Of course, Boston pounds them 6-1. They're now at 84 points in the first wild card spot. Rangers, Blue Jackets. The Blue Jackets, it's going to be the Blue Jackets and the Sabres in the Eastern Conference Finals, right? I mean, Columbus is just on an unbelievable heater, and it's crazy how all these teams in the Eastern Conference are now going on these crazy heaters when the Red Wings are battling injuries and kind of struggling here a little bit down the stretch. So, Islanders, Senators, Sens win 3-2. Ottawa now at 79 points. Islanders still at 83 points. Columbus moves up into the third spot in the Metropolitan. So, going over their last 10, I'm talking about all these teams in the heaters. Red Wings 4-4-2 in their last 10. Blue Jackets last 10. They're 7-0-3. They've earned points in 8 straight games, and as I just said, third in the Metropolitan. I don't know how it's happening. Senators last 10, 7-2-1. Bruins last 10, 5-2-3. The Sabres, the eventual Stanley Cup champions, 9-1 in their last 10. Islanders 6-4. I mean, it's just madness. And it's just, God, this is the one time we felt so good about the Red Wings down the stretch, and just everyone in the Eastern Conference goes on a heater. Point of interest, though, one of the numbers I was looking at today, Red Wings are one of 3 teams in the Atlantic with a minus goal differential. So the other two are the Leafs with minus 25. The Panthers are at minus 24. 203 goals scored, 204 goals against. Scoring has been a concern as of late. Tony, what has to go right down the stretch to get this team going? I mean, are we just relying or waiting for Dylan Larkin to come back to get this offense rejuvenated? Lucas Raymond hasn't looked like himself lately as well. So how concerned are you about the way this team has been performing offensively?
I mean, that's kind of a loaded question because I like, even going back to before the trade deadline, like, yes, this was a clear need for the Red Wings to improve their scoring. And they didn't add a top 6 scorer, and we've covered that ad nauseum, so we won't get into that here. I do want to point out that if we take away October and November, when the Red Wings really struggled in the goaltending department, they do have a plus 11 goal differential. So, like, you can call it negative across the whole season, but if you look at a more recent time frame that's more reflective of their play, it's plus 11, so it's not awful. But yeah, I mean, it's nice they got 2 5-on-5 goals today. 5-on-5 offense has struggled the entire season. It would have been great if they could get the power play going, because that's run a little cold since the Olympic break. Having Dylan Larkin back will certainly help. But yeah, this is something that's just going to need to be a point of emphasis in the last, remaining month and a half here. How can the Red Wings just generate more offense? Power play, for sure. It's been great all year. There's reason to believe that it'll, pick up the pace once Larkin is back, and once, they find that right chemistry, that right connection that Todd McClellan was talking about recently. 5-on-5, it's like, yeah, just continue to eke it out there and try to stay positive with your goal differential there. And it's going to be tough come playoff time to get those goals. The games are going to be closer and tighter, and it's just something that needs to be figured out as soon as possible. And speaking of scoring goals, I did put out an article today, Thursday, about what happens when the Red Wings do score goals. And it's good news. It really is. When the team scores 3 or more goals, their record is 31-4-6 after tonight's win. That's a really good record. Just 3 goals. That's all you got to get to, and you're usually in great shape. Now, the flip side of that, on defense, if the Red Wings allow 3 or less goals, Their record is 36-4-3. Very, very good. That's it. That's my rule of 3. Either score 3 or more or allow 3 or less. That's it. That as simple as you can get. That is the mantra for the rest of the season. If the Red Wings can do that, they will be in great shape. And it'll be great for the playoffs too, because this is like what you're going to need, come playoff time. Get those 3 goals, allow 3 or less, you're golden.
And I think that there's actually a lot of credence to your rule of 3 here, Tony. I obviously you're going to get a random, 7-6 game here and there, but hockey's generally a low scoring game. Like it's for better or worse. It's especially once you get into playoff time and everybody's really, paying attention to the fine details. You get a lot of 2-1, 3-2 games, and it's often, who gets that third goal first. So, yeah, I think that maybe even like approaching like that also makes winning seem more obtainable, if that makes sense. Like I think instead of saying a blanket statement like we have to outscore our opponents today, it's can we get to 3 goals, and that it feels more doable, right? You just get one a period or whatever you got to do. And with a team like the Red Wings that, let's face it, they do have a hard time generating consistent offense up and down their lineup. It does make it more manageable to where if you can just get 3 goals, whether it's, an all in one period, ideally now, or just spread out through the game. If you can get 3, and like you said, keep it under 3, keep the goals against under 3, you're probably going to win. And most teams that are going to win consistently in the NHL are going to be able to consistently score that third goal first.
Yeah, and it's not going to get easier, Tony, as you mentioned, and like tonight, these games have that playoff vibe now, and you're looking at Boston at home on Saturday, Ottawa Tuesday, so those are 2 huge games, and then off to Buffalo on Friday. So these are all going to be playoff type games, and you saw Todd McClellan talk about it earlier this week. He said, you can really feel the energy. He's like, I'm not just saying that, like the buzz in the arena, the intensity and the energy that the fans are building up, you can really help it. I mean, it is a different feel now because I know Red Wings fans are aware that, hey, like this is going to come down to the wire. It's an amazing learning experience for these young kids. And you got to remember that this team still is, very young.
Let's give Marco Kasper some credit here. He was all over the ice tonight, season high 8 hits. I really did like him on a line with Kopp and Appleton. I saw them matched up against Nick Suzuki's line a few times during the game, and they got nothing generated against the Red Wings with Kopp's line up against them. I don't know if we'll see that shutdown line, if you want to call it that, continue, especially when Larkin comes back. I'm sure a few things will shift around, but I liked what I saw. He was not only like hitting like Canadians left and right, he was mucking it up in front of the net. He was getting into it with their defensemen, got Jakub Dobiš off his game a little bit, just getting a stick in there after, covering up the puck. Like he was as advertised when the Red Wings drafted him. And Devin, I know you can speak to that too, but like that's the kind of Marco Kasper that's going to be a huge asset for the Red Wings,
especially come playoff time. And I fully agree. Kasper's the thing about Kasper is, yeah, he's the production hasn't been where you'd hoped it would have been this season, but I think he's still finding ways to make a difference. You mentioned the hits. He's still showing good, strong defensive instincts. He's still finding a way to make an impact on the game, and I think that is usually a sign of a pretty good player. And I just want to say real quickly, there's a lot of guys that I've been really impressed with since Dylan Larkin left the lineup that have really kind of seized the moment to kind of step up. Alex DeBrincat's on an absolute tear. He's almost single-handedly trying to make up for the offense lost by Dylan Larkin. Patrick Kane has really seemed to step up in the last few games. JT Compher, you mentioned him earlier, Tony. He's looked really probably the best he's looked all season, honestly. Emmitt Finnie, I think, has stepped up a little bit as well. I mean, you can kind of go up and down the lineup. There's a lot of different guys that have really, in the last couple of weeks, whether they intended to or not, they've really stepped up and tried to fill that hole left, but the very significant vacancy in their lineup with Larkin and the fact that they're still kind of staying afloat despite that, I think is the product and that the byproduct of all these different players stepping up.
I mean, I know you've advocated a lot to see Emmitt Finnie play at center, but in a million years, could you have imagined heading into this season if I told you that Emmitt Finnie would be your second line center with 14 games left to play as you're battling for a playoff spot? How impressed are you with his performance?
He's been outstanding. I know he's slumped a little bit around the Olympic rate, but like that's to be expected for a rookie. Like they can't be on the whole season. You saw that with Marco Kasper the year before. It took him until midseason to actually get going. And yeah, I mean, I continue to be impressed with everything he's done. It's not only that he's playing center well, and he's winning faceoffs, and he's driving play through the middle of the ice. There was a point in, I believe, the third period where he, just gathered the puck in the defensive zone with the head of steam and, went up 1-on-4 against the Canadiens and got the puck into the zone and somehow maintained possession. But he carved through the middle of the ice like Dylan Larkin does. And for, a former 7th round pick who's still, very, very young, like I'm really impressed. That like had me thinking like the Red Wings have a real player here. It's not just he caught fire at the beginning of the season and kind of trailed off. It's no, he's scoring, he's producing, he's doing all the little things right, like winning faceoffs and playing solid defensively. Like the Red Wings have a player here. This isn't just a flash in the pan.
Did anybody else get that like sinking feeling tonight that Joe Veleno was going to score the game-winning goal? Like that was my biggest fear watching tonight's game. Every time he touched the puck, I'm like, oh God, I couldn't take that right now. I mean, we've taken enough as Red Wings fans this past month, but Joe Veleno scoring the game, talk
In
about a shot.
previous years, it absolutely would have happened, and maybe that's what makes this year a little different.
Yeah,
For
it's
me,
former Red Wings or rookies looking to score their first career NHL goals. That's the curse of the Detroit Red Wings. I did want to ask you guys one more question, and it involves ASP, Axel Sandin Pellikka. He has now sat the last 6 games. For a team that needs offense, does that surprise you, Devin? Or is he just like, do you think that McClellan finds him as too much of a liability in his own end? Because we know what he brings to the table offensively, but seeing him sit for these last 6 games, it's Jacob Bernard Docker is taking over that role. What are your thoughts on ASP?
I don't know that it's necessarily like a full-blown indictment on him as a defensive player. I think it's a combination of things. I think that you're in the time of year where experience is king. Jacob Bernard Docker is not necessarily like a grizzled veteran like Justin Falk or Ben Schrott or any means, but he has played in the NHL prior to the season. He has been in some competitive games and over the course of his short career. And he has honestly over the last month or so really kind of settled in. I feel like there was that period of time where he was playing with Seider on the top line, and I thought he looked comfortable at the very least. And now he seems to have really kind of refound his fit, I guess I'll say, on that third pairing with Anton Johansson. And let's face it, sending Pellikka as a rookie, I think that he's prone to rookie mistakes. He's made plenty of them this season. You expect it, don't get me wrong, but it is a reality of having a young defenseman in your lineup, and they're playing these games where one mistake and all of a sudden they're out of the wild card spot, and we're having a very different tone this episode. So it's I think it's a lack of experience. I think that also sending Pellikka just isn't necessarily a fit as a third pairing 12 to 14 minute a night defenseman. I think that they'd rather him play 18 to 20 on that middle pair. But while Falk's there, that's not really a possibility right now. Now, don't get me wrong. If there's an injury, I absolutely expect that sending Pellikka is going to get back into the lineup. But knock on wood, salt over the shoulder, whatever you got to do. We obviously don't want that to happen. You'd rather the lineup stay healthy. So, Sandin Pellikka will play in the lineup again. I don't know if it's going to be the rest of the season or not. He'll be in the lineup next season 100%. I do think that if this is kind of where they've landed in terms of his fit in the lineup moving forward, I think it is time to pull the trigger and send him to Grand Rapids and let him play a ton of minutes down the stretch with the Griffins. You have Hamonic as your seventh defenseman. But, if, like I said, if an injury happens, you can just call up Sandy Pellica. But as things are right now, I think it's time to pull the trigger, send him down to Grand Rapids, and just kind of rock with or roll with the top six D that you have right now.
I know after the first 40 or 50 games of the season, there were some concerns about his durability, just because this is a lot of minutes and a lot of games in a compressed schedule for a young defenseman. So I get why they would sit him, and like why they didn't beforehand. Like there just wasn't the opportunity to do so. That said, I do think he deserves a chance to get back in the lineup before we talk about a trip to Grand Rapids. I don't think Jacob Bernard-Docker has been impressive after the Olympic break. I feel like there at least 2 or 3 times a game you see the score bug for the shift length, and it says Bernard-Docker minute plus, minute 10, minute 20, minute 30, just getting caught out there, and it's like, fortunately nothing bad is happening. Maybe a penalty, maybe a goal, but like all things considered, not too worrisome. I just don't think he's played well enough to be in the lineup every day. That's just my own opinion. And I do think with the team struggling to score, it would be helpful to get Sandy Pellica in there. That said, if the Red Wings have made the decision to get him some ice time in Grand Rapids, then so be it. Like, I know that was discussed earlier at some point. Just getting him some rest and getting him back up to speed in Grand Rapids, like kind of like what the Red Wings did with Nate Danielson. But I think at some point they're gonna have to turn to him, and I would rather him be somewhat like fresh instead of ice cold, from being in the stands for so long. But you're right, there really isn't any room for error at this point.
Grand Rapids is just going to be a wagon. This playoff run, I'm like so jealous that I'm not there for that, Devin. And that's going to lead us into our news and notes here off the top, because the Griffins are adding another big time Red Wings prospect who is coming over to play in GR.
Yes, and that would be Eddie Genbord, who recently signed his ELC after his season over in Sweden came to a close. His ELC technically kicks in next season, meaning he's under contract with the Red Wings. But that being said, he did end up signing an AHL contract to play with the Griffins for the rest of this season. Second round pick, 44th overall in last summer's draft. Winger, I've taken to calling him the Punisher because that is what he does. That's the style of game he plays. He's not afraid to get physical at all, but he's also the type of player where if you leave him alone in the slot, he will punish you. He knows how to score. He knows how to create pressure both with the puck on his stick and without it. He's going to be one of those players that a lot of people are talking about this summer, whether it's get him in the lineup, even though he's, get him in the lineup. They need the physicality, blah, 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 or, just overall excitement because of how he played with Grand Rapids. Kind of getting ahead of myself there, but no, he's a very fun prospect. 9 goals and 25 points in 43 games with his Swedish club. Very interested to see how much he plays with the Griffins in terms of like ice time and even just, getting into the lineup, and then how much of an impact he makes because he plays a high impact game. So if that translates with the Griffins down the stretch here, it'll be interesting to see kind of where just kind of the vibe is on him in terms of where his NHL timeline might be. But again, getting a little ahead of myself. Tony and Evan, are you guys excited about the Red Wings' newest contract signee?
I am, especially the remainder of the season in the playoffs for the Griffins. I think he's going to be a great addition for the team. And let's be honest, they need some forward depth right now. That said, I'm almost equally excited about the Griffins this spring as I am about the Red Wings, and that's saying something because we have been without Red Wings playoffs for a long, long time. But I really do think the Griffins have a chance to go far in this year's playoffs. Genborg will be probably a pretty big piece in that. I do want to point out, though, that just due to the NHL, SHL transfer agreement that's in place, if Genborg makes the Red Wings next year, he makes the Red Wings. If he doesn't, he has to go back to Sweden. He can't play in the AHL. We saw that with Anton Johansson last year. And I would expect that he'll actually be back in Grand Rapids pretty soon with his SHL season coming to a close in the near future. And he'll be there to stay because he's a year older and will likely be part of the Griffins next season as well.
Max Plante and Trey Augustine both finished in the top 10 for Hobey Baker voting. So they're both officially nominated for the award. Trey Augustine, as anyone who pays attention to Red Wings prospects knows, is arguably the top goalie in the system, has played the last few seasons with the Michigan State Spartans, is arguably the best goalie prospect in the world outside of the NHL right now, arguably. And then Max Plante, it was kind of the prospect that maybe aside from Genborg that kind of really announced himself this year. Obviously had a hell of a season with the University of Minnesota Duluth. Very creative, very skillful forward. He's one that I am very, very interested to see. Just what the future has in store for him for a lot of different reasons, honestly. But Red Wings have 2 Hobey Baker nominees in their system. Boy, this organization can draft. What do you say, boys?
Love it. Max Plante also won the NCHC Forward of the Year and I think Player of the Year as well. And I know Trey Augustine won the Big Ten Goalie of the Year. So they are racking up the hardware. It'd be nice if one of them could take home the Hobey Baker. If it's anyone, I think Plante has probably the better chance compared to Augustine, but I still think both of them are going to be long shots. Still, I mean, nothing would surprise me at this point.
Ryan Miller won the Hobey Baker as a goalie at Michigan State, didn't he?
Also for Augustine, it's expected that he will turn pro once Michigan State season ends, so he will more than likely be reporting to the Griffins. Not sure if it's going to be an ELC and he burns the first year, or if it's a similar setup as Eddie Genbord, where his ELC starts next season and he has an amateur tryout agreement for the remainder of the 2025-26 season. But more reinforcements on the way for the Griffins. Dylan James could turn pro as well. We'll see, like I said, Johansson over here at some point. And with the Red Wings getting healthier, there's a possibility that, whether it's Dominic Shine or Sheldon Dries or John Leonard, someone goes back to Grand Rapids now that, Andrew Kopp is back in the lineup. And hey, you know what? The Griffins are starting to look better and better now.
The Griffins got to be the favorite for the Calder Cup. And think of that 3-headed goalie monster you could have with Postava, Kosa, and Augustine. Come on.
That's wild.
That's just dirty. That's just dirty. Last thing I want to mention before we wrap, and this one's very important to all Red Wings fans. Happy birthday to Ken Daniels, whose birthday was yesterday, March 18th. And then today, Vladimir Konstantinov's birthday, one of the all-time Red Wings greats in my mind. I don't care what you say. He still is. And miss that guy. Love seeing him at the Sergei Fedorov retirement ceremony. Happy birthday to the Vladinator. What a special player. All right, so up next for the Red Wings, Saturday, as I mentioned, March 21st versus Boston at home, and then Tuesday, the Senators at home, and then Friday, they travel to Buffalo to play that juggernaut and future Stanley Cup winner, the Sabres. Check us out on Twitter at Flying Octopod, also on YouTube at The Flying Octopod. Subscribe, like, whatever you can do, and you can also listen to us on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. That'll do it for episode 75. We'll be back next week. Hopefully with some good news. We'll see you then.
Thanks for listening to the Flying Octopus Podcast. Follow us on YouTube at the Flying Octopus channel and Twitter at Flying Octopod.